The air in the witching hour's main hall was thick with worry. Phones rang loudly without stop. People moved quickly, their faces grim. Just hours before, a terrible monster called the Sarangay had caused great destruction. No one rested. Every screen glowed, showing maps and reports. Operators shouted into headsets. The usual calm order of the witching hour was gone, replaced by a desperate energy. Fear was a cold hand gripping everyone's heart. Every call brought more bad news. Safe House Delta is hit, someone shouted, their voice cracking. Section Gamma is under siege, another voice yelled. The reports came in one after another like falling dominoes. The attacks were not random acts of a beast. They were precise, like a careful game of chess. Each hit was aimed at weakening the witching hour's defenses, crippling their ability to fight back. This was a planned assault. The leaders of the witching hour felt like they were drowning under the weight of the attacks. These weren't simple monster hunts. They were a war. The entire organization felt wobbly, like a building ready to fall under the sudden relentless pressure. Don moved through the main hall, trying to give orders to calm people, but his own heart pounded with dread. He felt the weight of every report. It was hard to keep hope when the world seemed to be falling apart around them. We will get through this, Don said, his voice firm, though he wasn't sure. He knew they had to show strength, even when they felt weak. The hunters needed a leader to look to, someone to believe in. Among the chaos, Maya stood quietly. Her heart ached for the friends they had lost to the Sarangay. Grief was a heavy blanket, but under it, a fire of desperation burned. She knew they couldn't just wait for the next attack. She saw the faces of her lost comrades, their brave smiles, their laughter. Now, only memories remained, haunting her. The pain fueled her resolve. She would find who was responsible, no matter the cost, to honor their sacrifice. Maya had an idea, a dangerous one. She knew of an old divination ritual, one that could show hidden truths. It was risky, could even harm her, but she had to try. She needed to find a weakness, a pattern, a way to fight back. Their usual methods weren't working. The enemy was too smart, too hidden. A ritual was their best, perhaps only, chance. She had to see beyond the attacks, to the mind behind them, to find the unseen enemy. Maya slipped away from the main hall's chaos. She moved to her private chamber, a room filled with old books, strange tools, and a faint scent of herbs. This was her sanctuary, where ancient magic was practiced. She carefully picked out dried herbs with potent smells from dusty shelves. She selected glowing crystals of ancient power and a small, smooth stone bowl worn by time. Each item held a special energy for the ritual. She handled each item with reverence. A sprig of shadow root for inner sight, a shard of pure moonstone for clarity of vision, and a feather from a dream bird for connection to the unseen. Every piece was essential. On a small wooden table, Maya laid out a dark velvety cloth. She placed the crystals in a perfect circle, their points facing inward, and the herbs in neat piles around the edges. A single beeswax candle stood in the center. The air in the chamber grew quiet and still, as if holding its breath. The outside world's chaos faded away, replaced by a deep sense of calm. This was a sacred space made ready for the powerful magic Maya was about to call upon. She took a deep breath, steadying her heart. This ritual could be dangerous, showing her things she might not want to see, perhaps even harming her spirit. But she was ready. Her mind was focused, her will strong as iron. No matter how dark the truth, she would face it. No matter how painful the vision, she would endure. For her friends, for her people, she would find the answers that would help them fight back. This was her duty. With a steady hand, Maya lit the candle. Its small flame danced, casting flickering shadows across the walls. The warm glow provided the only light, making the sacred space feel ancient and powerful. She closed her eyes, focusing her thoughts inward. Then she began to whisper ancient words, soft and low, a language forgotten by most. The words filled the room, a magical hum that vibrated through her bones. As Maya chanted, the air around her seemed to grow thick, almost visible. A faint, tingling energy filled the chamber, making her skin prickle. It felt like the space between worlds was growing thinner, opening for her. The scent of the dried herbs grew stronger, filling her nose with a mix of earthy and sweet, almost intoxicating. The candle flame pulsed, growing brighter, then dimming with the rhythm of her voice and the building magic. Vague, blurry images started to flash behind Maya's eyelids. They were like broken pieces of a dream, jumbled and fleeting. She saw darkness, then flashes of light, but couldn't make sense of them yet. It was chaos. Maya pressed her mind, pushing past the blur. past the pain in her temples. She needed clarity. She concentrated all her will, reaching out to grasp the fleeting images, to pull them into focus. It felt like trying to catch smoke in her hands. Far from Maya's quiet chamber, Dean was in a different kind of darkness. He couldn't stop thinking about the hunter they had lost to the Sarangay. It was his fault, he thought. He should have been stronger, faster, more vigilant. The burden of leadership, of protecting his own, felt like a crushing weight on his chest. He replayed the moment in his mind over and over, searching for a way he could have changed it. The answer never came, only more pain. His guilt quickly turned to a burning fury. Fury at himself for his weakness, fury at the Sarangay for its cruelty, fury at the unseen enemy for pulling the strings. This anger fueled a desperate need for revenge, for justice. Dean went to the training room, a hidden place where hunters practiced their brutal craft. He hit the punching bag again and again, harder than before, until his knuckles bled. Sweat poured down his face. He wouldn't stop. Every punch, every kick was aimed at the phantom Sarangay. He imagined its tough hide, its sharp claws, its glowing eyes. He moved with a brutal grace, driven by a single burning purpose: to be strong enough to kill it. Between strikes, his gaze kept going to his arms, where his powerful magical tattoos lay dormant. They were dark, silent, refusing to glow with their usual protective power. He felt useless without them, like half a hunter. He pressed his hand against them, trying to force them awake. He chanted old words of power, gritting his teeth, his voice strained. He even inflicted small pains, hoping it would shock them back to life. But nothing happened. Hours passed, and Dean's tattoo still wouldn't glow. His frustration grew with every failed attempt. He punched the wall, a roar of pure anger escaping his lips. Why wouldn't they work when he needed them most, when lives were at stake? Words wouldn't fix this. Healing wouldn't fix this. Only power and a direct, brutal confrontation with the beast would make things right in his mind. He needed to prove he was worthy to himself and to his fallen friend. Dawn, a leader in the witching hour, stood near the training room, hidden from view. He watched Dean, seeing the raw anger and pain in every punch. Dawn knew Dean was hurting, pushing himself too hard, risking injury. He saw the exhaustion in Dean's movements, the desperation in his eyes. This wasn't healthy training, it was self-punishment. Dawn wanted to step in to offer comfort or guidance, but he knew Dean wouldn't listen. Back in her chamber, Maya felt a sharp pain in her head, a throbbing behind her eyes. But she ignored it, pushing past the discomfort. She closed her eyes tighter, pushing past the blurry images. She needed clarity. She needed to see the full, terrible truth. Slowly, the jumbled pictures in Maya's mind began to piece together. The colors sharpened, the shapes became clearer. It was like a hazy window slowly cleaning itself, revealing what was outside in perfect, chilling detail. The vision showed her the Sarangay, but it wasn't alone. Behind the hulking beast, she saw a shadowy figure pulling unseen strings. The monster was just a puppet, a weapon in the hands of someone else. Someone powerful and cruel, hidden from view. Maya forced her mind to zoom in on the shadowy figure. The darkness around it peeled away, like a curtain opening on a terrifying stage. The true source of the commands, the true enemy, began to appear before her eyes. There he was, a man with sharp, cold eyes and a cruel, knowing smile. His name echoed in her mind, clear as a bell. Markus. He looked strong, dangerous, and very, very old. This was the person giving the orders, the one behind all their pain. The vision showed not just his face, but fragments of his past. Markus was a notorious survivor, a key figure from the Great Cleansing. That was a time of terrible destruction, long ago. He was thought to be gone forever, dead and buried. Markus hadn't just survived. He had gathered others. The vision showed him reaching out, pulling together all the scattered traitors, those who had turned against their own kind. He had made them into one dark, unified force, bound by evil. In the vision, glowing objects appeared around Markus. They were Agimats, powerful magical items, brimming with ancient energy. But they were stolen, taken from their rightful guardians. Markus was holding them, drawing power from them like a dark battery. The stolen Agimats were not just for show. Markus was using their immense power to fuel a grand, terrible ritual. It was a massive spell, bigger than anything Maya had ever seen. Its purpose was chilling, world-ending, a true abomination. Its vision showed the ritual's terrifying goal, to corrupt the veil itself. The veil was the thin barrier between their world and the magical realms, keeping chaos out. If it broke, chaos and destruction would flood in, ruining everything. A silent gasp escaped Maya's lips, though no sound was made in her chamber. The chilling truth filled her with dread. This was bigger than any monster attack. This was a plan to ruin everything, to bring their entire world to its knees. Pure horror washed over her. The images swirled and then vanished. The glowing symbols on the floor dimmed, their light fading away. The energy left the room, leaving Maya weak and trembling. The ritual was over. The truth was revealed, but at a great cost to her energy and spirit. Maya slowly opened her eyes. The room was just as it had been, but everything felt different now. She had seen the true enemy, and his terrifying plan. The world was in more danger than they ever knew possible. A cold certainty settled in her heart. The Sarangay was just a monster, a shadow. But Markus and his plan to corrupt the veil was a threat of a whole new level. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about saving their entire world from utter ruin. A piercing siren cut through the tense quiet of the headquarters. Red alert. The harsh sound made everyone jump, their hearts pounding. All conversation stopped. This was the unmistakable signal for a new attack, another crisis. A voice crackled over the loudspeaker. Sarangay sighted, Sector Gamma 7, Commercial District. Another attack. The monster was back, fast and brutal. Fear tightened in everyone's chests. Who would be next to suffer? In the training room, Dean froze mid-punch. The alarm was all he needed to hear. His body tensed, every muscle coiling. This was his chance. He wouldn't wait. He had to go, even without his tattoos fully active. He had to fight. The memory of the fallen hunter pushed him. A burning coal in his gut. This was his chance to make up for it, to prove he was not useless. He had to face the Sarangay, no matter the danger to himself. He had to succeed. Don saw Dean moving, already heading for the exit, ignoring the chaos around him.
Dean, wait!
Don yelled, rushing after him, his voice urgent.
It's too fast! It could be a trap! We don't know enough! You're not ready, Don pleaded, trying to grab Dean's arm to physically stop him. Your tattoos!
Think, Dean. He knew Dean was powerful, but without his full strength, facing the Sarangay alone was a death wish, pure madness. Dean didn't even look back. He just kept running, a stubborn fire in his eyes. He knew Don was right, it could be a trap, but he didn't care. He had to face the monster. He had to prove he wasn't weak, not anymore. Dean rushed to his locker, pulling out his hunter's gear with practiced movements, his enchanted blades glinting dimly, his protective arm guards worn from many battles. He didn't waste a second, strapping them on quickly, efficiently. The familiar weight of the blades in his hands, the snug fit of the guards. Each piece felt familiar, a part of him. He was a hunter. This was what he did. He closed his eyes for a split second, taking a breath, preparing for the fight. He pushed open the heavy blast doors of the witching hour. The cool night air hit his face, carrying the distant sounds of destruction. He didn't hesitate. He ran towards the sound of distant screams, towards the chaos, towards his fate. His legs pumped, pushing him faster and faster. He dodged. Terrified civilians swerved around overturned cars. The rage fueled him, giving him strength he didn't know he had. He had to get there. Now before more lives were lost. He reached the commercial district. It was a mess. Cars were overturned, shops shattered, their windows blown out. Smoke rose into the night sky, thick and black. Panic filled the streets as people ran, screaming in terror. And there it was, the Sarangay. It was even bigger than he remembered. A dark, hulking shape tearing through a skyscraper, sending concrete and glass crashing down. Its roars echoed, shaking the ground, a sound of pure terror. The air around the Sarangay seemed to shimmer with dark energy. It was a force of pure destruction, a creature of ancient malice. It looked terrifyingly powerful, almost invincible, as it smashed another street lamp with casual force. Dean stood firm amidst the chaos, his jaw set. He gripped his blades tightly, their edges cold against his palms. He was alone against the monster, but he didn't care. This was his fight. His atonement. He had to do this. The Sarangay turned its massive head towards Dean, its red eyes glowing with hunger. It let out another roar and charged, a mountain of muscle and scales. Dean met it head-on. The fight was brutal, a clash of monster fury and hunter determination. The monster's claws were sharp, its strength immense. Dean dodged and weaved, but the Sarangay was fast, surprisingly agile for its size. It slammed its huge body into him, sending him flying backwards, crashing into rubble. Dean landed hard against a shattered car, shaking his head to clear it. He rolled, avoiding another crushing blow from the monster's tail. He was on the defensive, trying to find an opening. His muscles burned, his breath ragged. He couldn't hold out much longer. His tattoos were still dark, his full power out of reach. Panic started to creep in, fueling his desperation. He had to find a way, a weakness. He wouldn't let another hunter fall, not on his watch, not ever. Without his tattoos, Dean tried a different approach. He focused his will, pushing pure, raw magical energy through his fists. It wasn't elegant, it was primal, but it was all he had. He roared and swung hard at the monster's leg. His punch connected with a dull thud, but it seemed to do little. Then, a thought flashed through his mind, quick as lightning, clear as day. The Sarangay was immune to complex spells, those intricate magical patterns they usually used. The monster had shrugged off powerful, complicated spells from other hunters like they were nothing. But what about simple, raw force? His own raw magic, direct and strong, was like a simple, powerful hammer. Could that be the key, the one thing it couldn't block? Dean focused again, channeling all his anger and pain into a single glowing punch. He aimed for a weak spot, where two plates of the monster's armor met, a tiny seam he'd noticed earlier. This time, it felt different. It felt right. As his fist slammed into the Sarangay with all his might. This time, a sound echoed that wasn't just a dull thud. There was a sickening crack. A small fissure, barely visible, appeared on the monster's tough, scaly skin. A tiny victory. The Sarangay roared, but this wasn't a roar of anger. It was a roar of pain, of surprise, of a wound. It recoiled, stumbling backward, shaking its massive head. It felt something. Dean's heart leaped. It wasn't invincible. It could be hurt. Now Dean knew exactly what to do. He found the crack and didn't stop. He unleashed a flurry of punches, each one aimed at that single, vulnerable spot. He used his raw magic, making his fists glow with focused power over and over, with relentless fury. The small crack grew into a larger, gaping wound spreading across the monster's hide. Dark, purplish energy leaked from it, smoking and hissing. The Sarangay howled, a sound of agony and rage. It thrashed, trying to shake Dean off, but he clung on. He knew he couldn't kill it. Not yet, not alone. The wound was bad, but not fatal. He didn't have enough power to deliver a death blow, but he could do something else, something just as important. He could make it leave. He could force it to retreat. Dean mustered all his remaining strength. He unleashed one last powerful, magic-infused punch directly into the deepening wound. The Sarangay shrieked, a sound of defeat and pain. It turned and lumbered away, its huge body clumsy with injury. The massive Sarangay disappeared into the shadows, leaving a trail of shattered buildings and a lingering smell of smoke and fear. It was gone. It had retreated. Dean, against all odds, had faced the monster and made it run. Dean leaned against a crumbled wall, his body shaking uncontrollably. Sweat, blood, and grime covered him. His muscles screamed in protest. He was utterly exhausted, but he was alive. And he had won a small but vital victory. Sirens grew louder, and then dawn burst onto the scene with other hunters, their faces etched with worry. They saw the damaged street, the smoke, and Dean standing, barely. Then they saw the monster's clear retreat trail and the massive wound. They understood. Dawn rushed to Dean's side, his face a mix of intense relief and anger. "Dean, are you crazy? You could have been killed." But his voice was filled with deep concern, his hand on Dean's shoulder. He was profoundly glad Dean was safe. Dean coughed, a small weary smile touching his lips, a flash of pride in his eyes. "It ran," he rasped, the words scratchy. It wasn't a kill, but it was a victory. He had faced the monster and made it retreat. He had found its weakness, and that was enough. The path forward was now clear. Complex spells didn't work, but raw, physical magic did. They could wound the Sarangay, make it retreat. This beast wasn't an unstoppable force after all. There was hope, a way to fight back. Standing there, catching his breath, Dean understood. The Sarangay was just a tool, a powerful weapon in someone else's hand. It wasn't the true enemy. It was just a shield for the real mastermind, a distraction for a bigger plan. The monster had retreated, But the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The true enemy, the one pulling the strings, now had a face and a name. Markus. And now they knew exactly who to hunt, who to fight. Back at HQ, Maya, still tired from her powerful ritual, didn't rest. She had to tell him. She sent an urgent, encrypted message to Dawn, her fingers flying over the keyboard. They needed to know the full truth, immediately, to act. Dawn's communicator buzzed loudly. He opened Maya's message, reading it quickly, his eyes widening with every word. Markus, the Veil, the stolen Agimats. The truth hit him hard. It was far worse than he had imagined, but now they had a lead. It all made sense now. Dean had wounded the Sarangay with raw magic, not complex spells. It fit perfectly with Markus's use of stolen Agimats to power his darkness. The monster was a weapon, and Markus was its wielder. This changed everything. Their mission wasn't just to fight monsters anymore. It was to stop Markus. To protect the Veil from corruption. To save their entire world from a terrible fate. The stakes were higher than ever before. The chaos had not ended, but now there was a clear direction. A glimmer of hope shone through the darkness. They had a name, a plan, and a way to fight back. They wouldn't give up. Not now, not ever, not until Markus was defeated. The Sarangay had been a brutal challenge, but it was only the beginning. With Markus revealed, the real war had begun. The Witching Hour would stand together, ready to face the mastermind behind the betrayal. Their world depended on it, and they were ready. The Witching Hour, battered but not broken, now had a new purpose. They had a name for their enemy, and a weakness for his weapon. Their resolve hardened, a silent promise to fight for every life, every shadow. The battle for the Veil had truly begun.
Shadows creep where the old truths sleep. City lights blur what secrets stir. From lagging streets to the city's heart, a row hunter's feet playing a dangerous part. 15 years since the cleansing scar. Now the veil's thin, not far, not far. Monsters crawl beyond the wall. He's hunting them down, gonna make them fall.